So you're thinking about, for the first time in a long time, how to make a move from your current position as a senior executive, and what does that entail from a process standpoint. And this is something that I am asked every day, at times what feels like 100 times a day, through emails or voicemails, through executives who are extraordinarily successful where they are. But for the first time in a long time, they're poking their head up and wondering what might be next outside of where they are, and what are the things I need to do to try and understand what's out there. Well, here are a couple of thoughts that I'd like to get you thinking about. First, if I'm a senior executive and you truly know that in your own organization, the next step, and for many the next step, is either CEO, president, a big division president leadership role. And as we all know, the pyramid gets pretty tight at the top. What do you need to do to understand what's out there? And what do you need to do to best position yourself for that conversation? And candidly, I'm going to put it back on the executive. What I find is one of the most effective ways for leaders to really understand what is out there is to do a little homework on your own. If I'm in a specific sector, industrial and broadly, CPG, financial services, take a look at the 4 or 5, 6 or 7 companies, if you want to stay in the sector, that are going to be most of interest to you should you decide to make a move. Do some homework. Do some homework on those organizations where they are in their own evolution. And candidly, pull that data together and understand who the key decision makers are at that company. Now, in most cases, if you're a senior executive, it's going to be the board or CEO. Maybe it's going to be a division or a group president. But identify those individuals within the organizations and craft a very personal email outreach to those individuals. Why do you do that? Well, I'm a big believer, if you can't sell yourself to them, nobody can. Nobody's going to know as much about your background as you. Nobody's going to know as much about what you've done to move the needle over the last 10, 15, 20 years that would be appropriate to that potential targeted company. And craft a thoughtful but strategic and content-rich email to the individuals within those organizations that you have the most interest in. Reach out to them. Explain to them that you're not necessarily looking to make a move, but that you bring some unique, different, special capabilities and experiences to them that, based on your own research of that organization, you believe would create incremental value. In many organizations, you can look and you can see that there's succession needed. Now, they may have that in their own company. They may have 1 or 2 or 3 people who might be coming up behind the CEO or a big group president or a big C-suite opportunity. But oftentimes you'd be surprised that they don't. And by being proactive and thoughtful about your own outreach to those decision makers in those companies is a wonderful way to get you introduced to those organizations. 2, if you're going to reach out to a search firm, an executive search firm, reach out to the 1 or 2 people within the firm who have the expertise by industry or function. In most search firms, they're industry practice heads, they're functional practice heads. Again, create a thoughtful outreach email to them. I sometimes will get an email, more than I care to admit here, where I might be one of 5, 7, 10 individuals that a senior executive will send their information to. Now, I'm always thoughtful personally to respond to that individual. However, that's not a personal outreach to a senior consultant in search. Do it one-off, one at a time, understand their capabilities, look at their website. Many of them will have reputations. You'll know it by who they are in the industry. And ask for a thoughtful 10 to 15 minute conversation to talk about your areas of interest, and then be very specific around what it is you bring to, again, the organizations you have the most interest in. You can't come into that conversation pretty much with a broad canvas saying, I bring great leadership and people skills, and I'm a great communicator, and I've had some global experience. You know, it's just broad brush. You need to be specific for most search consultants. They need to know, where have you hit the ball out of the park? What are your 1 or 2 areas of interest? And what makes you unique, different, and special? And you've got to capture that in less than 5 minutes, because otherwise you'll lose them. And then third, and I think it's pretty obvious, if you're a senior executive and you've been successful, you've built a network over some period of time, 15, 20, 30 years, use that network. There's this fallacy that executive search firms are the place to go to get and find new opportunities. I would tell you that it's a fraction. The search community is a fraction of the opportunities, represent a fraction of the opportunities that are out there. And it's going to be through your own network, through your own initiative, through your own due diligence and packaging yourself, that are going to get you more bites at the apple than resting on 3 or 4 or 5 search firms to, if you will, do your bidding. That's not to say that my relationships personally over 30, 40 years, I absolutely know where my talent sits, and I will reach to them, but I'm always looking for new talent. So most search firms, you need to make sure that they know who you are and what makes you different. So I hope that's helpful. Please think about being strategic, doing the outreach personally, using your network, and then being very strategic with a handful of search firms who bring the right kind of content and experience to the party that you believe will give you access to those specific assignments they may be working on. With that, as always, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like me to address in future videos, please put them down in the comments below, and I'd be delighted to take a look at them and share my thoughts with you. All the best.